Hello, this is Romeo Cat Computers, and today I'm in my grandma's basement, the one in Maryland. I'm in Maryland again. Now, I'm not in her garage because I'm not changing any of the wiring in there again. Apparently, she says the neighbors are jealous of my lighting system that I installed, so that went pretty good. But anyway, in this video, I'm going to be replacing her Wi-Fi router. So this is it right here. It's an older looking Netgear. It does have 5 gigahertz, but my grandpa set it up. There's several issues with this. Now, it does work, but the main one being that the Wi-Fi strength and range is terrible, and the speed is atrocious. Let me show you some examples. So my grandma gets Comcast, unfortunately, and can you believe she gets 600 megabits symmetrical? That is like more speed than anybody has ever had. And I don't know what she's doing with all 600, but that's besides the point. Sitting next to the Wi-Fi router, I'm getting 6.6. Now, of course, it depends. It was running this test a second ago, and it was fluctuating as high as 7.5. But you can see this is the problem. Now, of course, this is sitting right next to it, but nobody sits right next to the router down here. We all sit upstairs where it's nice and comfortable. And up there, it can be worse. Well, I guess we find ourselves in the garage again. The garage is on the opposite side of the house to approximately where the router is located. And I'm getting 3.8, and in fact this is a pretty good test. When it had started, it was like barely getting 1.5, but after some time it managed to get up to 3.8. So that's the problem, is that it's slow. And yeah, not all devices are going to be able to handle the full 600, and of course an older one isn't going to be able to push 600, but 3.8 is bad. So I got this, and no, I didn't get it at Walmart, I got it at Best Buy. Wi-Fi 6 seems to be the new thing now, and it's the only thing I could get. I couldn't get any non-Wi-Fi 6 things, because I guess they don't sell them anymore. Nobody here has Wi-Fi 6, but I guess it's preparing for the future. So anyway, this thing was $99, and if you can believe that was the cheapest one I could get. But it's got decent specifications. As you can see, has speeds up to 1.8 gigabits, which I'm assuming that's over Wi-Fi, meaning that we should be able to hopefully even get a full 600 on devices that support it. I don't know how many devices that's going to be, but we can actually utilize the high speeds. And of course, it's just more modern equipment and probably has some other useful features. So I'm going to install that. So the new router has been installed. I also moved everything up a shelf and tidied the place up a bit. So what are we getting now? Well, now I'd say we're cooking. Now this laptop isn't exactly the best measurement. It's old, doesn't have 5 gigahertz or 6 gigahertz for that matter. But the fact that I'm getting 47 now is pretty dang good. And I measured it upstairs, I got about 35 or so. But we tested it on my grandma's iPad, and it got up to 55. And on her HP laptop, one much newer than this old G62, it got like up to like 72. And that's just Wi-Fi. So here I have it directly connected, and I'm getting 82. Which of course, this has a 10100 Ethernet controller in it, so it wouldn't be able to get more than 100.
This is Whiskey Zero Zulu Mike Lima. I'm pushing about 1100 watts into the K4. I'm using some nicer equipment. TH11 is at 113 degrees exact towards your QTH. And then on the next go around here, when I drop the mic, start talking and I'll record for you as well. All right? This is Whiskey Zero Zulu Mike Lima.
Kilo Foxtrot 0, Charlie, India, stroke 3, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, testing.
This is my grandma's laptop. It's an HP Pavilion something. She got it for Christmas in about 2018 or 19. And it would seem like a nice laptop. And for the most part it is. But it is completely ruined by two things. And if you can believe it, for as new as this laptop is, it still has a spinning hard drive, which completely ruins the entire experience. Couple that with a grandma who, like many, aren't exactly computer savvy, and so through both the software that's come on here from HP and the stuff that she has somehow ended up downloading, it's made it even slower. And so all of this random software that should not be on here is all fighting over access to one hard drive, fighting with, of course, the operating system itself. So I'm going to be backing her stuff up onto a hard drive, an external one that is, all the important stuff, wiping this, putting an SSD in, and reinstalling Windows, and that should hopefully bring this thing up to the power that it originally was intended to have. So I'm finally on the desktop, and this thing is completely unusable. Like, I disabled a whole bunch of services like HP Help, and tried to kill McAfee, but that's still running. A bunch of other stuff. Still very slow, perhaps a bit better. But, yeah, here we go. So, when I looked at inside the computer, it said a 16 gigabyte drive. If I remember correctly, Intel Optanium is some sort of technology where they essentially like use RAM chips or RAM technology so you can get really, really fast speeds, but they use it for storage rather than temporary memory. But of course, they're only able to get, not very big storage capacities, so 16 gigabytes. Now, I don't understand exactly what it's trying to do, but I think it's trying to work in conjunction with the slow as molasses hard drive to pick up the slack, and I think it's basically just caching a bunch of stuff, which it's talking about over here. Oh, yeah, there goes McAfee. But it clearly is not doing a very good job, so I'm going to have to look into that more. But we've got Intel Optanium in here. So I went into the computer management and the disk management part to see what was really going on here. And it really treats these two drives as one drive. That is the 16 gigabyte Optane M.2 drive. That's a hard drive, and of course these two are probably also actually located on the hard drive. Here is the hard drive, the problem and the reason why this thing is so slow. And this is that Intel Optane memory module, 16 gigabytes. Now I want to upgrade this to solid state and reinstall Windows to get all the garbage off of there, which should kind of refresh the computer and give it some new life. I was considering getting an M.2 drive similar to that to put in here, but I was kind of hesitant, one because they're kind of expensive and we don't have that kind of money to just buy one, and also I'm not exactly sure about this slot. Obviously it's an M.2 drive and an M.2 slot, but I don't know if the motherboard or the hardware is going to be very particular about only allowing these Optane drives in here. And again, it was cheaper, so I got a Western Digital Blue 500 gigabyte. I would have gotten less, but this is the lowest amount they had. This is a 1 terabyte hard drive that's currently in here, and she's not using all that much, so I figured 500 would be more fitting. Here we are. The surgery was a success and the SSD was installed fine. Fortunately, there are a lot of HP laptops, and desktops for that matter, out there that I've had trouble with, that will often refuse to boot to things other than the drive they came with. Luckily, this computer had no problem booting to the installation medium, and I got it installed real quick. And so the installation also went through pretty well, of the software that is. And right now I'm going through all the driver and software updates for Windows 10. I also went through and optimized it, got rid of a lot of the garbage apps that come with Microsoft Windows and all of the Microsoft services that we don't use and to bog down the computer. So that's been going pretty good, and it's pretty responsive. The activity light down here, you can see it's flickering. On the old hard drive, it was just constantly on all the time. So obviously, we don't have so many things fighting over hard drive access because the SSD can actually keep up. These light switches. Here I'm in the basement again. Wi-Fi router's just over there. In the household library. And I hate these switches. Well, for one, well, look at that. This one just comes right off. This one is the type that you push in, then you can also turn it to dim. But then this one's completely different. It does the far ones over there. And it's weird because you don't push it at all. Once you get to a certain point, they're just off, but it doesn't even click. And makes concerning electrical humming noises. So I think these are due for a replacement, as these were probably put in during the 70s when my grandfather wired the basement. So I'm going to be replacing them with these nice dimmer switches. And they will be covered by a cover just like that. Well, this would turn into a very long video if I filmed the whole process of me messing with the annoying wires. So, and there we go. Well, it took me a while to figure out what breakers these were. Other thing I found out is each of these switches, which controls 2 sets of lights, are on 2 different circuits. So there are 2 circuits in this single back box, which is not up to NEC code. But despite that, everything went pretty well, except for the fact that I put them in upside down. Now, like many of the back boxes, it's a bit messy in there, and I don't want to take everything out and put it all back in, so they're going to be upside down until I come back some other time and when I care more. But anyway, they work fine. So you pull up to go to dim them, and they've got kind of a neat effect provided by the transistors in the switches or whatever computers they're using, where they have a smooth dimming feature, which is kind of neat. Same with the other ones. Slowly on, slowly off. So I would say that's good. And of course, you can also just turn them on and off as one would. Also, when you turn them on, they have that smooth effect. So anyway, that's that done. So this computer, it's a Dell Inspiron desktop. Used to be my grandpa's. And it has Windows 7 on it on a really slow hard drive. And he overloaded it with the most useless junk. Now, I only visit Maryland once or twice a year. But I thought instead of bringing my underpowered laptop, I'll just keep this here. Because this thing, despite being old enough that it has a Windows Vista sticker, it's actually got a quad core and 8 gigs of RAM, which is better than my laptop. So I'm going to be wiping this, putting another SSD in, same kind as what I put in the other laptop, and I'll be putting Ubuntu Linux, the Mate version. The inside, dealing with a bunch of dust bunnies, but that shouldn't be too bad. And of course, a hard drive, being mounted sideways for some reason. I believe it's maybe a 1 terabyte hard drive. I don't remember what it was when I looked, but I'm going to be putting the SSD in here. And Linux has been installed. Took a great deal of effort because I couldn't get the images to boot, and then Grub was having issues getting the installer to start, but eventually I got it sorted out. I installed the Mate version of Ubuntu Linux, and I just finished installing Kdenlive. Other than that, everything else appears to be running just fine. And I will use this here in place of my laptop, which is equally as old but also less powerful. And I also tidied the place up so it's not as cluttered. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video and all of these projects. Figured I would just throw them all into one. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.